Whenever life presents you with a big decision, whether it's choosing a career, picking the right job, or navigating through something deeply personal like the loss of a loved one, it all starts with one crucial thing: truly understanding who you are and recognizing what you're genuinely capable of. Your true potential begins to shine when you discover something you can excel at almost effortlessly, something that feels natural and fulfilling. To uncover that kind of purpose, your real calling, you have to dig deep and really get to know yourself. This journey of self-discovery is what Carl Jung referred to as the process of individuation. Individuation is about personal growth through transformation. It involves integrating the unconscious parts of your mind into your conscious personality, helping you become more whole, more complete. Carl Jung, a pioneer in the field of psychoanalysis, helped shape this concept. Psychoanalysis itself is a branch of psychology focused on bringing repressed thoughts and emotions to the surface, helping people heal and understand themselves better. Jung's influence stretched far beyond psychology. He left a powerful mark on psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, and even religious studies. The body of ideas Carl Jung developed is known as Jungian philosophy, and it's the foundation of many of his most influential works. Some of his key books include Psychology of the Unconscious, Man and His Symbols, The Archetypes, and the Collective Unconscious, Modern Man in Search of a Soul, The Psychology of the Transference, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, and the Relations between the Ego and the Unconscious. Jung initially studied under the legendary Sigmund Freud, who was not only his mentor, but also a major influence on early psychoanalytic thought. However, as Jung's ideas evolved, he broke away from Freud and went on to establish his own school of thought, which he called analytical psychology. Unlike Freud's approach, analytical psychology doesn't just focus on past experiences, it also explores present-day life, myths, folklore, and cultural stories to help integrate all parts of the human mind. At the heart of analytical psychology lies the concept of individuation. For Jung, the journey toward discovering your true self and unlocking your potential isn't just helpful, it's a fundamental part of becoming a fully developed human being. So how can you apply Jung's insights to your own life? In this video, we'll explore 8 powerful lessons from Carl Jung's philosophy that can guide you on the path to reaching your full potential. 1. Don't let others define who you are. Carl Jung once said, "The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you." In other words, if you're not sure of your identity, society will be quick to shape it for you. This was one of the many areas where Jung's views diverged from those of his mentor, Sigmund Freud. Unlike Freud, Jung didn't believe that all psychological issues stem solely from childhood trauma. He also didn't fully embrace the idea of the superego, Freud's term for the internalized voice of authority and morality, shaped during childhood by parents and society. Freud saw the superego as the conscience built from what we were told was right or wrong, especially by parents and teachers. But Jung took a broader view. He believed that the inner voice urging us to act a certain way doesn't come from a single source. Instead, it can be influenced by a wide range of factors, not just early life experiences or biology, but also by our goals, hopes, and the image we hold of our future self. Jung emphasized that when we lack a clear and optimistic vision of who we are and where we're headed, we become more vulnerable. We lose inner strength and resilience, making it easier for criticism, pressure, or negative influences from the world around us to break us down. Life will constantly push you to conform or prove yourself, sometimes in aggressive or overwhelming ways. That's why it's crucial to quiet the external noise and tune into your own inner voice, the one that truly reflects who you are. Building a strong sense of self is how you protect your mental well-being and move closer to becoming your most authentic self. From the very beginning of our lives, even before we start school, we're subtly encouraged to imitate others. It becomes a habit so early on that we don't even notice it. But here's the truth. If your sense of self is weak or undeveloped, you'll naturally fall into the trap of doing whatever others expect from you. You'll follow their rules, their standards, their dreams, not your own. And eventually, this can lead to bitterness, frustration, and regret. Regret that you didn't choose your own path when you had the chance. The answer isn't to copy someone else. It's to slow down and reflect on what truly matters to you. What do you genuinely value in life? Do you prioritize safety and stability, or are you driven by freedom and independence? Are you someone who thrives on competition, or do you feel more fulfilled working alongside others in harmony? Are you an adventurer at heart, always seeking new experiences, or do you feel most at peace with structure and routine? Don't try to be someone you're not. If you're naturally introverted, don't force yourself to come off as the life of the party. That kind of pretending can wear you down over time and even harm your mental health. Instead, keep asking yourself the big questions. Who am I really? What do I enjoy? What drains me? What kind of life do I want to build for myself? That kind of deep self-questioning is the first step toward clarity. Once you understand your true nature, your next actions become clearer. That's when you start shaping the world around you, rather than letting the world shape you. And don't think it's ever too late to start this process. No matter your age or stage in life, it's always worth the effort to uncover your own style, your own voice, your way of moving through the world. A good life is one that reflects who you are. Without a deep understanding of what makes you you, it's nearly impossible to find the kind of activities, goals, or work that will truly unlock your potential. 2. Understand your passions. Carl Jung once said, "A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them." What he meant is this: if you want to master your inner world, you can't ignore the intense emotions and desires bubbling beneath the surface. You have to face them head-on. As one of the founding figures of psychoanalysis, Jung recognized just how crucial it is for people to confront the hidden layers of their subconscious. These often include repressed desires, the kind we don't like to admit even to ourselves. That could mean sexual urges, impulses to hurt others, even if we'd never act on them, or a craving to do something wild, silly, or socially embarrassing. But here's the catch. Until we're brave enough to acknowledge these parts of ourselves, they continue to have power over us. Suppressing or avoiding them doesn't make them go away. It only pushes them deeper, where they can twist our behavior in ways we don't fully understand. When we ignore the things that make us uncomfortable, those very things tend to come back stronger, through anxiety, emotional instability, or self-sabotage. According to Jung, true healing begins when we stop running and start looking inward, especially at our passions and darker impulses. Because often, the things we fear the most are the keys to understanding who we really are. We tend to repress our deeper urges and passions because they either clash with what society deems acceptable, or they simply feel too overwhelming for us to handle. These emotions can seem so intense or inappropriate that pushing them down feels like the only option. But when we start drifting through life with a passive or detached attitude, when we become withdrawn, unresponsive to the world around us, or avoid social interactions, it's often a sign that we're running from those intense inner feelings. We're avoiding the strong emotions that shape our behavior, especially when they've been buried deep inside us. Take this example. You might have a natural talent and a genuine passion for connecting with people. Maybe deep down, you're meant to be a powerful public speaker. But imagine that as a child, someone, maybe a teacher or adult, mocked the way you spoke. That single humiliating moment planted fear in you, making you shy away from expressing yourself ever since. You've been holding back not because you lack the skill, but because an old wound taught you to protect yourself from the risk of embarrassment. These kinds of repressed emotions, especially those tied to our passions, can silently hold us back until we find the courage to face them and let them go. The most effective way to begin healing from these kinds of anxieties and to reconnect with your true passions is by turning inward and doing the deep work of self-discovery. Start by journaling regularly. Writing down your thoughts helps you process emotions and recognize patterns in your behavior. Pay attention to your dreams as well. They often reveal the desires and fears hiding in your subconscious. Above all, make the effort to truly understand yourself, to be kinder to yourself, and to stop judging your past so harshly. Give yourself permission to pursue what you genuinely care about. Carve out time for activities that energize you and bring you joy. And when it comes to fear, especially fear that's been holding you back for years, take small, manageable steps to face it head-on. Think back to the earlier example. If public speaking terrifies you because of a childhood incident, consider signing up for a class. You might be surprised to find out you're not only capable, but actually gifted in that area. That fear, as it turns out, may have been unfounded all along. The more you connect with what excites you, the more alive you'll feel, and the more clearly you'll begin to understand the passions that live inside you. 3. Focus on who you want to become. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." It's a powerful reminder that our past doesn't have to define us. Our future can be shaped by the choices we make today. Although Jung was fascinated by mythology and introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared layer of the unconscious mind that connects all human beings and subtly influences our behavior, he still believed in the power of conscious will. In fact, it was precisely because he understood how much we're affected by unconscious forces that he stressed the importance of strengthening our conscious awareness and choosing the person we want to become. For Jung, growth meant acknowledging and integrating all the hidden parts of ourselves, even the immature ones we developed in childhood. Maybe that means facing a constant need for approval or recognizing a deep fear of being left behind. These traits don't disappear on their own, but they can be woven into a more balanced, mature identity if we choose to face them with honesty. Over time, this act of integration, of bringing both the light and shadow sides of our psyche into harmony, is what Jung called individuation. It's the process of becoming whole, becoming truly ourselves. In the end, what shapes our identity most isn't what we've been through. It's the direction we set for our lives. It's the vision we commit to, the self we choose to grow into. Having a clear vision of the person we want to become is essential for our mental and emotional well-being. When you don't have a goal, when you don't know how you want to present yourself to the world or what kind of life you're working toward, you end up drifting. You go with the flow, letting circumstances and other people make choices for you. But there's a hidden danger in living passively, without intention. When we don't actively shape our lives, when we don't reflect before making big decisions, we risk unconsciously repeating the past. Often, the psyche will guide us back to unresolved wounds from earlier in life. And without realizing it, we can recreate those same painful scenarios, hoping to somehow resolve them, but ending up hurt again instead. Let's say you grew up in a home where you were neglected, or even mistreated. If you never truly reflect on how that shaped you, and if you make relationship choices purely by instinct, you might find yourself in a similar dynamic all over again. Not because you want it, but because your unconscious mind is trying to finish a story that never had closure. That's why relying solely on your instincts, without involving reason and awareness, can lead you astray. It can stop you from making the best choices for your future and keep you from unlocking your full potential. True growth begins when you live with intention, when your conscious mind becomes the guide, not just a passenger. In the example we discussed earlier, the immature part of the psyche is the fear of abandonment. And ironically, that very fear often drives people to repeat dysfunctional patterns, seeking out the familiar, even when it hurts, because it feels safe. To move past this fear, you need more than just hope or wishful thinking. You need a clear, conscious vision of where you want to go in life. From there, create a rational, step-by-step plan to get there, and commit to it. Don't give your doubts or insecurities the final say. They can have a voice, but they shouldn't have control. When you stay focused on the person you want to become, something powerful starts to happen. Those old, fearful parts of your psyche don't disappear, but they evolve. You begin to integrate them into a stronger, wiser version of yourself. You become someone who no longer needs to live in fear, because you've outgrown it. To avoid becoming a prisoner of your past, or a victim of your fears, you need to spend intentional time with yourself. Reflect on what you've been through, not to relive the pain, but to learn from it. Your past doesn't define you unless you let it. What truly defines you is the future you choose to build. So decide who you really want to become, and then start living like that person. Not just in thought, but in action. 4. Give up your addictions. Carl Jung once said, "Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism." In other words, addiction isn't just about substances. It's about any pattern we cling to in order to avoid dealing with reality. Addiction is a deeply rooted issue, touching every layer of a person's life: biological, psychological, social, and even spiritual. Jung, in his work with countless patients, saw firsthand how damaging addictions can be. But what's especially interesting is that he noticed a connection between those struggling with substance abuse and those caught up in something less obvious, but just as dangerous: idealism. Sometimes, we become so attached to a perfect, idealized version of life that we blind ourselves to the truth. We ignore the messiness, the pain, the disappointments, because they don't fit the picture we want to believe in. Whether it's addiction to alcohol or to a fantasy about how life should be, both can serve the same purpose: escape. At its core, addiction is often a defense mechanism. It's a way of avoiding the real, painful issues we don't feel strong enough to face. But true healing begins when we stop running and start confronting what actually hurts. That's why so many people turn to alcohol, drugs, or even idealism as a form of escape. These things offer temporary relief from reality, but in the long run, they only keep us disconnected from ourselves. To maintain a healthy mind, we need to stay rooted in reality, not run from it. If you're unhappy with where you are in life, maybe you're struggling with your health or feel stuck in a jobless rut, don't waste your energy numbing yourself with substances or hiding in unrealistic fantasies. Instead, summon the courage to face your life as it is. Be honest about what needs to change. Make a concrete plan, take real action, whether that means applying more persistently for jobs or sticking to a workout routine with discipline and consistency. When you spend your days half awake, lost in distraction, or drifting in some unrealistic dream, you lose access to your true self. You won't be able to come up with real solutions or design a way out of your current situation. And without that clarity, you'll never create a life that reflects who you really are or allows you to reach your full potential. 5. Be honest about your capabilities. Jung believed that you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. In other words, it's not your intentions or your words that define you, it's your actions. As a psychoanalyst, Carl Jung had an extraordinary ability to see right through his patients, regardless of how they tried to present themselves. That's because we're rarely the person we pretend to be. No matter what we say, it's our actions that truly reveal who we are. The process of individuation, which Jung often wrote about, is all about closing the gap between who we are on the inside and how we act on the outside. It's about living in alignment with our ideal self. Jung believed we are born with a self, full of potential, but it takes a lifetime to fully uncover and embody it. Early in life, we don't even know who we want to become. we're just figuring things out. Jung viewed the first half of life as a time for developing the ego, our sense of identity, and building the image we present to the world. During this phase, we experiment with different roles, careers, relationships, and ways of living. We're still testing the waters, learning through trial and error. But then comes the second half of life, typically around the age of 40, when a deeper transformation begins. At this stage, you're meant to move beyond surface-level identity and toward a fuller integration of the self. By this time, you should have a clearer vision of who you truly want to become, and that vision should guide your choices, your habits, and your actions. Of course, even before that turning point, it's wise to live with integrity. That means keeping your word, being realistic about your time and energy, and learning from your past. For example, if you always cram for exams the night before and end up with bad grades, it's a sign that your approach isn't working. If you want different results, you need to change your behavior. Growth begins when we stop lying to ourselves and start aligning our actions with who we truly want to be. Similarly, if your boss asks whether you can complete a task by tomorrow, don't rush to say yes, especially if deep down you know you're not confident in that area. If it's something you're still learning, or you know you'll need help from a more experienced colleague, be honest about that. Trying to match the speed and expertise of someone who's been doing it for years will likely only add stress and lead to delays. When you consistently fail to deliver on your promises, people start to lose trust in you. Your words carry less weight, and over time, they might stop believing you altogether. While it's normal, and even healthy, early in life to push your boundaries, take on big challenges, and sometimes overpromise just to see what you're capable of, there comes a point when you need to reassess. Eventually, you reach a stage in life where self-awareness becomes essential. You begin to understand your limits, not to hold yourself back, but to make smarter commitments. That's when you start aligning what you promise with what you can realistically do. It's not about playing it safe. It's about building credibility and living with integrity. As you work toward reaching your full potential, one of the most powerful things you can do is face your limits head-on. Instead of seeing them as failures or weaknesses, treat them as helpful signposts, indicators that it might be time to pivot and explore another path that's a better fit for you. Being honest with yourself and with others about what you can and cannot do is not a weakness. In fact, it's one of the smartest moves you can make. It helps you save time, reduce frustration, and discover the direction where your natural strengths lie. The more clarity you have about your real capabilities, the quicker you'll stumble upon the activities and roles where you shine with minimal effort. And that's often the clearest path toward fulfilling your potential. 6. Turn weaknesses into strengths. Jung once admitted, "I regret many follies which sprang from my obstinacy, but without that trait, I would not have reached my goal." In his autobiographical work, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he looked back on his life and recognized how things could have unfolded very differently if he had been a different person. Jung saw himself as someone who was, admittedly, quite stubborn. He even called it obstinacy. But instead of viewing that trait purely as a flaw, he acknowledged something deeper. That very stubbornness had played a crucial role in his success. Without it, he believed he wouldn't have achieved what he did. This reveals something important. Sometimes what we think of as a weakness can become a strength, depending on how and where it's applied. In Jung's case, maybe his stubbornness caused problems in his personal life. But professionally, it gave him the drive and persistence to push boundaries and develop groundbreaking ideas. If we explore our so-called flaws in the right context, we may discover that they're not holding us back. They're actually helping us grow. 7. When you're in the process of becoming yourself, you're on the right path. Jung believed that each of us has a unique inner path, a kind of destiny that's deeply connected to who we are at our core. And the best thing we can do is follow that path, wherever it leads, as long as it keeps us aligned with our true self. To Jung, the most meaningful life is one lived in harmony with your inner nature. This means being in a continuous state of self-realization, what he called the individuation process. It's about becoming whole, integrating all parts of your personality, and living as the person you were truly meant to be. Instead of beating yourself up over your weaknesses, start asking how those traits might actually serve you. What lessons do they carry? What strength is hidden within them? Your imperfections aren't roadblocks, they're guideposts. Take some time to make a list of the things you're often criticized for. Then, instead of just seeing them as flaws, ask yourself, how could I use these traits in a meaningful way? Also, consider where they might not serve you well, so you can be more mindful about how they show up in your life. For example, let's say you're a highly sensitive person, someone who spends more time in your imagination than dealing with practical matters. Maybe people around you have pointed that out, saying you lack everyday problem-solving skills, or that you don't even know how to fix something simple in your home. Rather than turning that into an internal battle, constantly trying to prove people wrong or forcing yourself to develop skills that don't come naturally, what if you shifted your focus? What if you leaned into your imagination instead? That sensitivity and inner world you've always had could be the key to something incredible. Maybe there's an artist inside you waiting to be discovered, a painter, a musician, a storyteller, a writer. Your creativity might be the very thing that sets you apart. It's far more effective to build your life around your natural strengths and passions than to pour all your energy into fixing what others say you lack. Use what you've got, and use it well. 8. Find a connection to the infinite. Carl Jung once posed a profound question. The decisive question for man is he related to something infinite or not? That is the telling question of his life. This wasn't just philosophical musing. It was central to how Jung understood human well-being. Although he considered himself a man of science, much of Jung's work touches deeply on the metaphysical. Why? Because he believed that many of our inner struggles, feelings of emptiness, anxiety, or despair, could be eased if we found a way to connect our lives to something greater than ourselves. This connection doesn't have to be religious in the traditional sense. For some, it might be God. For others, it could be a sense of cosmic order, nature, the universe, or simply a deep commitment to something meaningful. Jung wasn't prescribing a specific belief system. He was pointing out the psychological benefits of placing your life within a broader, infinite context. When we see our existence as part of something larger, life gains depth. We start to feel a stronger sense of purpose, more resilience in the face of hardship, and a deeper peace. Even if you're not religious or particularly spiritual, Jung encouraged finding your own way to relate to the infinite, because doing so can bring powerful meaning and stability to your life. Maybe for you, that connection to the infinite comes from contemplating the universe, the vast, intricate web of life where everything is linked. Every atom, every star, every human being who has ever lived or will ever live, all from the same source. When you think of life that way, your actions take on new meaning. The effort you put into your work, the compassion you show to others, the legacy you leave behind, it all matters, because you are a part of this incredible, ever-evolving human story. You're one of countless expressions of the human species, a living thread in the grand fabric of civilization. And when you look at the breathtaking achievements of humanity, our discoveries, our art, our ability to create and transform, it's hard not to feel awe. That sense of wonder can fill you with pride, gratitude, and a desire to give something back. For some, the infinite reveals itself in faith, in a belief in God. For others, it's found in the mysteries of the cosmos, or in the love they feel for their children, who carry our collective story forward. The infinite doesn't have to fit a single definition. It's simply anything that gives your life meaning beyond your brief time here. This connection to something greater, whatever form it takes, can become a powerful source of motivation. It can inspire you to grow, to give, and to live your life in a way that contributes to the world. Whether that connection is spiritual, religious, or philosophical, Jung believed it could help anchor your existence and fuel your pursuit of potential. 8. Make time for deep reflection. In one of his most personal insights, Jung said, "You must be alone to find out what supports you when you find that you cannot support yourself." Jung believed that solitude wasn't something to be feared, it was something to be embraced. In fact, he saw solitude as one of the most powerful tools for healing and self-discovery. He even said that solitude is what can make life truly worth living. To find lasting happiness and unlock your potential, you have to live in harmony with your inner needs, not just the external expectations of the world. And solitude offers the perfect space to tune in and listen to those quiet inner demands. This becomes especially important when life feels heavy, when you're going through challenges, and you don't know where to turn. In those moments, step away from the noise. Spend time alone. Reflect. Ask yourself what really gives your life meaning. What supports you emotionally when everything else falls away? What direction feels most aligned with your heart and your growth? Sometimes, it can be as simple as taking a quiet walk by the lake. In that silence, you might realize that the true beauty of life has nothing to do with the size of your bank account or the titles you hold. Instead, it lies in the calm and contentment you feel when your life is in balance, when your daily activities reflect who you are, bring you joy, and move you closer to your potential. Because in the end, that's what it's all about, living a life that feels like your own. Take a moment to ask yourself, what truly makes me happy? Don't hold back. Don't filter your thoughts based on money, status, or what others expect of you. Imagine, just for a moment, that money wasn't a factor at all. What would you spend your time doing? Whatever that is, hold on to it. That's your clue. That's where your energy belongs, on the activities that bring you joy and help you become more of who you're meant to be. Realizing your potential isn't a destination, it's a lifelong journey. And solitude gives you the space to pause and reflect. It allows you to check in with yourself, to see how far you've come, and to think clearly about where you're headed next. So give yourself that time. Honor those quiet moments, because in them, you'll often find the clearest answers and the strength to move forward toward the life that was always meant for you.